Imagine you're on a small boat in the middle of the ocean. If you don't take hold of the wheel and decide on a direction, the wind and currents will simply carry you wherever they please. Life can be a lot like that sometimes. In our everyday existence, either we chart our own course or the world around us starts steering for us. This episode is about taking the wheel of your life. It's about building your personality before the world builds it for you. We live in a busy world full of expectations, social pressures, and constant noise. From a young age, people around us, like our parents, teachers, friends, social media now, society at large, all have ideas of who we should be. It's easy to drift into those expectations without even realizing it. Before you know it, you might find yourself living a life based on other scripts, following a path that doesn't truly feel like yours. Perhaps you've had moments where you pause and wonder, who am I really? How much of me is shaped by my own choices, and how much by what the world has thrown at me? Building your personality intentionally means actively choosing the kind of person you want to become, your values, your habits, your way of interacting with the world, rather than passively letting circumstances mold you. It's about deciding, from a young age, if possible, what matters to you and what traits you want to cultivate. When we talk about personality here, we don't mean your surface demeanor, like being extroverted or funny. We mean the deeper content of your character, the inner qualities that define who you are at your core. This is crucial because if you don't define yourself, others will happily define it for you. Society might label you by your job title, your looks, your grades, or your social media followers. But those labels aren't the true you. Achievements and skills are wonderful, okay? But they are what you do or what you have, not who you are, right? The world often focuses on those external things, yet what truly determines the course of your life is your inner character. Think about it. When life gets tough, and it will surely at times, it's not your trophies or your GPA that you get through. It's your resilience, your integrity, and your heart. In this calm and reflective journey we are about to take, let's explore why intentionally shaping your personality is perhaps the most important project of your life. We'll discuss why it's more vital than just racking up achievements or skills, and how to actually do it in practical terms. We'll delve into key traits like discipline, self respect, clarity, empathy, adaptability, and qualities that form a strong foundations for a fulfilling life. We'll sprinkle in some philosophical insights from wise minds across history, use a few metaphors to paint the picture, and share real world examples to ground it all. By the end of our talk, you might feel inspired to take a more active role in becoming the person you want to be, starting today. Think of it as being the author of your own story instead of just a character in someone else's. This isn't about perfection, though. None of us will ever be perfect. It's about conscious growth. So, let's dive in and see how we can build our personality before the world builds it for us. How we can take the reins of our identity and craft a character we are proud of from youth through old age. From the moment we are born, we start absorbing the world around us. We pick up a language, behaviors, beliefs, even our sense of what's normal, mostly from our environment. As children and teenagers, we are especially impressionable. We want to fit in, to be liked, to meet the expectations set for us. This is very natural. It's how we learn to socialize and survive. But here's the catch: if you go through life without consciously deciding who you want to be, you'll end up being a patchwork of other people's ideas, expectations, and influences. In other words, if you don't build your personality, the world will build it for you. Think about a young person who never stops to reflect on what they truly value or who they truly are. Maybe they pursue a certain career because their parents pushed for it, or they start acting a certain way because their friend group does. Maybe they even adopt the habits, hobbies, or opinions that happen to be popular without questioning if those things resonate with them personally. And over time, this person might achieve some conventional success, a degree, a decent job, a social circle, yet still feel strangely empty or as if they are living someone else's life. It's a bit like wearing clothes that don't quite fit. You can walk around in them, but they never feel comfortable. The truth is, the world loves to put us into boxes. Society will happily tell you what to value and how to behave, get good grades, get a high paying job, buy a house, look a certain way, think a certain way. There's nothing inherently wrong with any of those life choices, no. But they need to be your choices, not just what everyone else says you should do. If you don't have a strong sense of self, it's all too easy to live by other people's scripts. You might find in hindsight that you climbed a ladder that was leaning against the wrong wall. You reached the top only to realize it isn't where you genuinely want to be. One powerful reminder of this comes from those who have the clearest perspective on life, people near the end of their lives. Hospice nurse Bronnie Ware famously recorded the top regrets of people on their deathbeds. The number one regret they voiced was this: I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Imagine that. The most common wish in the final moments of life was to have been truer to oneself. Not more money, not more awards, but authenticity. This tells us just how easy it is to get swept up in external expectations and how deeply we might regret it later. So, how do we avoid that fate? The first step is simply recognition. Recognize that you have a choice. You are not just a passenger on this journey. You can be the driver. This is where personal responsibility comes in. As the writer and philosopher John Didion put it, character, the willingness to accept responsibility for one's own life, is the source from which self respect springs. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that while you didn't choose all the circumstances of your upbringing, you do get to choose what you do next, who you become from here on out. It's realizing that your life is ultimately yours, an ongoing project of you. Now, taking responsibility for shaping yourself can be challenging. It might mean questioning the narratives you've inherited. It takes courage to say, I know everyone expects me to do this, but my heart leans toward that. It might mean facing some disagreements or disappointing others in the short term. But the alternative is far worse: living a life that isn't really yours. Remember the earlier metaphor of being the author of your own story? There's fitting quote by motivational speaker Jim Rohn: if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's plan. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. It's a bit blunt, but true. If you aren't steering, someone else is, and they will steer you toward what serves their goals, not necessarily yours. That someone else could be a particular person, or it could be the general currents of society and peer pressure. Either way, not having your hands on the wheel means you could end up anywhere, and that place may not be fulfilling for you. This doesn't mean rejecting every piece of advice or every norm out of stubbornness. It means filtering them. It means actively thinking, is this me? Does this align with my values and passions? If yes, great, you incorporate it as part of the personality you're building. If not, you need to let it go. In practical terms, not letting the world define you often involves moment of pause and reflection. For example, after a big decision or when you are faced with pressure, take a step back. Find a quiet moment to ask yourself, what do I really want here? Am I okay with this because it resonates with me or just because everyone else seems to want it? Those moments of honest self questioning are like putting your hand back on the steering wheel. It's important to mention that we are shaped by our environment to some extent, and that's okay. No one is an island. You might adopt your parents' kindness, your teacher's love of literature, or your culture's respect for community, all wonderful things. Intentional personality building doesn't mean shutting down the world, it means curating from the world. You choose the influences that align with the person you aspire to be, and you gently deflect those that don't. Think of it like a gardener tending a garden. You nurture the flowers you want, and you pull out the weeds you don't, rather than just letting everything grow wild, right? Okay, by being mindful in this way, you gradually form a personality that feels authentic and strong. One that can withstand the winds of external opinion because its roots go deep into your own convictions. This sets the stage for the next part of our discussion: why who you are or your character truly matters even more than what you achieve. Because once you've committed to shaping your own personality, it's worth understanding why that inner character is ultimately more important than any trophy or resume line you could collect. We'll explore that next now. It's tempting in today's world to measure ourselves by external achievements, from report cards and trophies in childhood to degrees, job titles, and income in adulthood. Society gives us many yardsticks. We often get the message that more is better. More awards, more followers, more things. Achievements and skills are tangible. They are visible to others and bring validation. So, why do we say your personality, the person you become inside, matters more? Okay, imagine two individuals starting out in their careers. One is extremely talented in technical sense. Let's say they are brilliant at coding or design, and they land a great job. However, this person never learned to collaborate, struggles with honesty, or lacks empathy. The other individual is moderately skilled, but very reliable, communicative, and respectful. Over time, who do you think will make a better leader or have more loyal colleagues and friends? Time and again, we see that skills might open a door, but character is what keeps you in the room. As one business bluntly puts it, nobody wants to work with a brilliant jerk. In any team or relationship, who you are matters far more than what you can do on paper. Achievements are like the ornaments on a tree, while character is the tree itself, the trunk and roots. The ornaments are fleshy and draw attention, but without a strong trunk and roots, the tree cannot stand for long. In life, this plays out when people achieve success without a solid character to ground it with. We've all heard of public figures who reached great heights only to have scandal or personal issues topple them. On the flip side, someone with integrity, resilience, and kindness can weather storms. If they face a setback, they have the inner strength to rebuild. There is someone who has only ever built an impressive facade can see their life crumble when one piece falls out of place. Consider what truly defines your experience of someone else. When you think of a friend or a family member you deeply respect or love, is it their resume you admire? Or is it their kindness, their reliability when you need them, their sense of humor that lights up a room, the wisdom they share? We remember people for how they treat us and how they make us feel, not for their list of accomplishments, right? As poet Maya Angelou famously said, people will forget what you said or did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. That how you make others feel comes directly from your personality, your empathy, your respect, your authenticity. From a philosophical viewpoint, many thinkers have argued that character is a form of true wealth. Achievements can be taken away, money can be spent, jobs can be lost, trophies can gather dust, but character endures. It's the one possession in life that truly belongs to you. The writer, Dave Cale, put it this way after decades of observing successful and unsuccessful people: a refined character is the ultimate path to success and fulfillment. Notice he says ultimate path, not just one path. You might achieve some success without strong character, but to have lasting success coupled with genuine fulfillment, character is the key. It's what ensures that when you do achieve something, you handle it with grace and use it well. And if you encounter failure, you learn and preserve instead of breaking down. Even research and workplace studies back this up. For example, Google conducted a famous study called Project Oxygen to figure out what made them best managers and teams. They expected technical prowess to top the list, given it's a tech company. But to their surprise, the top qualities of effective leaders were soft skills: being a good coach, communicating well, having empathy for team members, giving clear vision, whereas technical skill ranked last among the top 8 traits. In other words, the human qualities outshone the technical ones when it came to real impact. This doesn't mean technical skills don't matter at all, but it shows that beyond a certain point, it's character that differentiates outstanding leaders and collaborators from just average ones. Now, let's be clear: celebrating character over achievements isn't about dismissing ambition or saying you shouldn't have goals. No, goals are great, work hard, excel at your craft, but don't neglect the inner work. If you pour all your energy into stacking up achievements, but none into building virtues and values, you might end up with success that feels hollow. There's a saying: your talent can take you places that your character cannot sustain. If you grow in stature but not in character, there's a risk of it all collapsing, or of reaching the top and feeling empty. On the other hand, if you focus on building a strong personality, qualities like discipline, empathy, and integrity, you set yourself up for a more balanced and resilient life. Achievements then become a byproduct or a bonus. You'll likely still achieve plenty, but you'll do it on your terms and with a sense of meaning. And most importantly, you'll have the tools to handle it when things don't go according to the plan, as life often surprises us. Character also matters for something very fundamental: your relationship with yourself. You could win every award, but if deep down you don't like who you've become, those awards mean very little. Conversely, when you respect and trust the person you are, even small wins in life feel satisfying and losses don't crush your spirit. Alright, to sum up, focusing on who you are sets the foundation for everything you do. It's like investing in the strength of your engine rather than just the shine of the car's exterior. Once the engine is strong, the car can go far. With a weak engine, a shiny car won't get you down the block. In the next section, we'll turn to how to actually cultivate that strong inner engine, the key character traits that will help you stir your life in weather, any weather. Let's identify 5 fundamental traits that contribute greatly to a strong, intentional personality: discipline, self respect, clarity, empathy, and adaptability. These aren't the only positive traits in the world, but developing these lays a powerful foundation. Let's explore each one and consider how to cultivate it in our lives. The first trait on our list is discipline. Now, I know discipline isn't a very glamorous word. It might conjure images of strict teachers or regimented routines, but think of discipline not as punishment, but as self mastery, the ability to control your impulses and stay committed to your goals. In fact, discipline is what gives you freedom from being a slave to fleeting moods or external pressures. As one of the Stoic philosophers wisely said, no man is free who is not master to himself. When you have discipline, you become the master of yourself. You gain the freedom to stir your life rather than being pushed by momentary desires or societal currents. What does discipline look like in everyday life? It can be as simple as keeping the promises you make to yourself. If you decide you'll study or exercise or work on a personal project, and when the moment comes, you follow through. Even if you're not in the mood, that's discipline. Each time you do that, it's like you're laying another brick in the foundation of your character. Over time, you build immense trust in yourself. You know that when you set your mind to something, you will do it. That trust is incredibly powerful. On the flip side, without discipline, we often become victims of procrastination and distraction. We might have big dreams or good intentions, but find ourselves constantly veering off track. Scrolling on the phone, chasing one more episode of a show, putting off the difficult tasks. We all slip up. And self forgiveness is important, which we'll talk about later. But if lack of discipline becomes the norm, it leads to a lot of frustration, and we feel like we have no control over our time or our habits, and that can make life very chaotic. There's a real evidence that self discipline makes a big difference. Psychology research with students has shown that those who have more self discipline tend to perform better academically and realize more of their potential, whereas students who lack self discipline often fall short of their capabilities. It's not that they are less intelligent, of course not. It's just they struggle to stay focused on their goals. This shows that talent or IQ alone isn't enough. How you apply yourself through disciplined effort matters a great deal. Philosophically, discipline is tied to the concept of delayed gratification, being able to do something hard now for the sake of a greater reward later. An old saying goes, discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. In a world that emphasizes instant gratification, discipline can really feel tough. But the irony is, practicing discipline actually reduces hardship in the long run. If you discipline yourself to maintain your health, you gain freedom from many illnesses. It's like a muscle, hard to train at first, but as it strengthens, it carries you to places you couldn't reach otherwise. Okay, So, how can you build discipline practically? One key is to start with small habits. You don't become a highly disciplined person overnight. You start by picking one or two little things and sticking to them. For example, decide you'll wake up 15 minutes earlier to plan your day, or commit to writing a paragraph in your journal every night, or simply make your bed each morning. These might seem trivial, but every small act of keeping a commitment to yourself is a vote for the type of person you want to become. It tells your brain, I do what I set out to do. Another tip is to structure your environment to help rather than relying on willpower alone. If you get easily distracted by your phone when you need to focus, discipline might mean putting your phone in another room for an hour. If you tend to skip workouts in the evening, maybe switch to morning workouts before the day's excuses pile up on you. The idea is to make the right thing a bit easier, remove the friction, and the tempting thing a bit harder. As one strategy suggests, remove temptations. For instance, if you're trying to eat healthy, don't keep a jar of cookies on your desk. Also, remember that discipline doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. In fact, being too rigid can backfire. Discipline should be paired with flexibility and self compassion. If you slip, instead of thinking, oh, I failed, what's the use of it? A disciplined mind says, all right, I stumbled today, what can I learn from it? And I'll get back on track tomorrow. The goal is consistency and not perfection. Remember that. A disciplined person is not someone who never has lazy moments or fun. It's someone who has learned how to balance those moments with their commitments and how to get back on track after a delay. It might help to reframe discipline as a form of self care or self respect. We'll talk about self respect next, but when you are disciplined, you are essentially saying to yourself, I care about my future self enough to do the necessary work today. It's like how a parent might make a child do their homework. In this case, you are both the parent and the child yourself. The inner parent understands that doing the homework now will benefit the inner child in the future. And over time, your inner child, that part of you that wants comfort and ease, starts to trust that inner parent is acting in its best interest. One powerful outcome of developing discipline is that it builds confidence. You start seeing evidence that you can count on you. While others might get swayed by every whim, you have an anchor. This confidence spills over into everything you do. If you've trained yourself to push through a tough study session or persist in learning a difficult skill, you know you can handle challenges. When an opportunity comes up, you won't shy away thinking, oh, I probably won't follow through. You'll know that you have the grit to see it through. Lastly, discipline compounds. The efforts you make consistently, even the small ones, add up over time in a big way. Trust me. It's like compounding interest in a bank account. Small daily deposits of effort can lead to huge payoffs down the line. Skills mastered, goals achieved, dreams realized, and most importantly, a character that is strong and prepared. In a nutshell, discipline is the backbone that holds up all your other traits and talents. It's not about being stern or joyless, it's about empowering yourself to live according to what matters to you. When you have discipline, you have the steering wheel firmly in hand. You become the master of yourself. And that is a deeply satisfying form of freedom. Self respect is exactly what it sounds like, respecting yourself. It means you value your own dignity and well being. You treat yourself as someone worthy of good things and fair treatment, both from yourself and from others. Now, this might sound obvious, but in reality, self respect is something many of us struggle with, especially if we tie our worth solely to external validation or if we've been through experiences that tore down our sense of self. Building self respect is a conscious process of saying, I'm not going to belittle myself or allow others to do so. One way to think of self respect is as an inner compass that tells you when you are honoring yourself or betraying yourself. When you have self respect, you are honest with yourself. You stand up for your needs and your values, and you don't tolerate being treated in ways that violate your dignity. It doesn't mean you think you're perfect or better than anyone. No. It means you recognize that you matter and you hold yourself to a standard of treating you like you matter. Okay, but why is self respect so crucial to personality building? Because if you don't respect yourself, you'll constantly undermine yourself. You might let others walk all over you, or you might make choices that you inadvertently know are bad for you just to please others or maybe just to avoid conflict. Living without self respect is like constantly slouching. Eventually, it hurts and diminishes you. Again, as John Didion noted, people without self respect are unwilling audiences to their own failings. They lie awake at night cataloging where they fell short. In contrast, self respect gives you a kind of inner peace. Not that you ignore your mistakes, no, but you can look at yourself in the mirror and feel okay with who you are, flaws and all, because you know you are doing your best to live true to your principles. An important aspect of self respect is taking responsibility for your own life. If something goes wrong, a person with self respect doesn't immediately look for someone to blame or rescue them. They ask, okay, but what can I do differently? How can I make this better? This personal accountability actually boosts your self respect because each time you own your choices, good or bad, you reinforce the idea that your life is yours. Remember Didion's insight? Accepting responsibility for your life is the source of self respect. It's empowering to realize you are in charge of you. Self respect also manifests as setting boundaries. Think of boundaries as the lines that define what behavior is acceptable to you. If you respect yourself, you won't let people repeatedly violate those lines. For example, if a friend or partner constantly belittles you or pressure you to do things you're uncomfortable with, self-respect is a voice that says, this isn't right and this isn't what I want. It might prompt you to have a tough conversation or even distance yourself from someone who doesn't treat you with respect. I know that can be hard, but each time you enforce a boundary in line with your worth, you strengthen your self respect. You prove to yourself that your well being matters. Self respect is closely tied to self esteem, but there's a nuance. Self esteem often refers to how much you like yourself, whereas self respect is about acknowledging your inherent worth and acting accordingly. You might not always like yourself. We all have days we feel disappointed or down on ourselves. But you can still act with self respect by not engaging in self destructive behavior or by not allowing others to mistreat you. In fact, acting with self respect, even when you don't feel high self esteem, can gradually build a healthier, kinder view of yourself. Another thing to talk about here is integrity. Living in a way that aligns with your values feeds self respect. When you do something that you know deep down is wrong, notice how you feel about yourself after. You might feel guilty, ashamed, or just not at ease in your own skin. Those feelings erode self respect. On the other hand, when you stick to your principles, even if it's inconvenient or no one else knows you did the right thing, you strengthen that respect. It's like adding a deposit into your self respect bank account. Over time, those deposits accumulate. You begin to trust yourself more and more. You know that you have your own back. Let's bring this to a real life scenario. Suppose you are at work or school and you notice everyone is gossiping about a new colleague in a mean way. Part of you feels the peer pressure to join in so you're not the odd one out. But your value is kindness, and you know gossiping would make you feel disappointed in yourself. If you have self respect, you might excuse yourself from the conversation or even gently counter it by saying something kind about that person. That might not make you the most popular in that moment, of course not, but when you walk away, you'll feel a quiet pride. You've honored your own values. That's self respect in action, choosing what aligns with your principles over what might be socially easy in the moment. Building self respect can start with small things as well. It could be as simple as keeping your personal space clean and respecting your body with rest and good nutrition, signaling that you are worth care. It could be practicing saying no, which is so important when you really need to. If you're always saying yes to favors or invitations just because you're afraid of letting others down, you may end up drained or doing things you actually don't want to. Your time and energy are so valuable. Self respect means recognizing that, and sometimes saying no, I can commit to that right now, so you don't overextend yourself. Initially, if you're not used to it, saying no can feel very selfish. I've been there. But in truth, it's the airplane oxygen mask metaphor. You must first secure your own mask before assisting others. If you constantly sacrifice self respect to please others, you eventually burn out or feel resentful. Respecting yourself creates a healthier balance. One challenge on the path of self respect is the voice of self criticism. Many of us have an inner critic that is quick to point out our flaws. Self respect doesn't mean you never acknowledge your flaws, okay? It means you don't treat yourself with contempt because of them. Think of how a good friend would critique you with honesty, but also kindness. So you need to become your own best friend. You can practice viewing yourself that way, right? Instead of, oh, I messed up, I'm such a failure. Respect would have you say, I did mess up. I am responsible for that. I'll apologize or make it right, but this mistake doesn't make me worthless. I'm still worthy of respect. This kind of inner dialogue takes practice, but it's part of building that respectful relationship with yourself. In a nutshell, self respect is about honoring your own worth through your actions and choices. It's an anchor that keeps you from drifting into situations or behaviors that harm you. When you respect yourself, you naturally teach others how to treat you as well. You carry yourself with a certain quiet confidence. This trait, combined with discipline, creates a powerful duo. Discipline helps you achieve and stick to your values, and self respect ensures those values include caring for you. Together, they form a solid backbone of your personality, one that stands strong whether or not others approve of you. And interestingly, the more you respect yourself, the more you tend to gain genuine respect from others who see that you value who you are. Now let's come to clarity. Clarity is the trait of being clear minded about who you are and what you want. Think of it as having a good internal map and compass. When you have clarity, you understand your own values, goals, and beliefs, and you can see the path ahead, or at least the next few steps, with some confidence. Without clarity, it's easy to feel foggy or lost. You might constantly second guess yourself or find that you're running in circles because you haven't figured out where you actually want to go. Okay, but why clarity is so important for intentionally building your personality? Because you can't shape something if you don't know what you're aiming for. Clarity gives you direction. It's the difference between wandering aimlessly and journeying with a purpose. Now, to be clear, no pun intended, having clarity doesn't mean you have every detail of your life figured out. Far from it, okay? Life is full of uncertainties. Clarity means you have a handle on your priorities and principles. You know what's important to you, which provides guidance even when the specific terrain changes. Okay, if you have clarity that one of your core values is creativity and another is helping others, that clarity can guide big decisions, maybe what career to pursue or how to spend your free time. If you know that being honest is a fundamental principle for you, that clarity will guide you when you're faced with a moral dilemma. Or on a simple level, clarity in knowing that your health is a priority will guide how you structure your daily habits. One big part of clarity is self awareness. This means taking the time to really know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, what energizes you versus what drains you, what deeply matters to you, and what you can live without. Clarity often starts with questioning and reflection. Many people never pause to ask themselves, what do I really want out of life? What kind of person do I want to be? What values do I hold most dear? We are sometimes afraid of these big questions, really. Or we assume the answers are supposed to be handed to us by society or by someone. But gaining clarity is an inside job. It can be one of the most rewarding projects you ever undertake. Consider the practice of journaling or just a diary entry as a tool for clarity. Writing down your thoughts can be like clearing the fog from your mind. When you pour ideas or feelings onto paper or a screen, you start to see patterns. You might notice that every time you write about work, you mention how you love the problem solving aspect of it, or conversely, how you feel unfulfilled because it lacks creativity. Those patterns are clues to what matters to you. Similarly, reflecting on experiences, why did I feel so happy volunteering last month? Why did I feel uneasy when I went along with that group decision? These can shed light on your values. Over time, you build a clearer picture of you. Clarity also involves setting some form of vision for yourself. This doesn't have to be a grand 5 year plan, though it could be. It might simply be a clear intention, like, I want to live a life where I'm continuously learning and helping people grow. You notice that's not a specific job or location, it's a guiding star. With that clarity, even if you change careers or go through ups and downs, you have a consistent thread. You seek learning and you seek to help others. Your personality will shape around that intention, making you someone who values curiosity and generosity. Another aspect of clarity is being able to think critically and separate your own voice from the noise. We talked about not letting the world define you. Clarity is a tool that helps you discern your voice in a chorus of others. If you're always scrolling through feeds with other people's opinion about what success looks like or what you should want, it can cloud your own vision. Taking time in silence or solitude can do wonders of hearing yourself. It might be a quiet walk in the park without your phone, maybe a few minutes of meditation each morning, or a weekend afternoon off of social media just to sit and think or doodle your thoughts. In those quieter moments, your mind can surface insights that get drowned out in the daily rush. Clarity also comes from learning and exposure. Sometimes we don't know what we value or want because we haven't encountered it yet. By trying new things and exposing yourself to different ideas, you can get a clearer sense of what clicks with you and what doesn't. Think of it like tasting a variety of foods to clarify what your palate likes. Travel, read widely, talk to people from different walks of life, try hobbies. Each experience will teach you something about yourself. Maybe volunteering at a shelter makes you realize how passionate you are about social justice. Clarity gained. Or if you take a coding class and discover that while you can do it, it doesn't excite you. Another piece of clarity. Perhaps creativity is more your thing, maybe. A person with clarity is often described as focused or centered. They have an inner coherence. It doesn't mean they never change their mind. It means when they change direction, it's due to a new clarity, not more confusion. Okay, let's take an example. You might train in law because you thought it was your path, but through self reflection and experiences, you gain clarity that your true interest is in environmental work. So you shift, and that's totally fine. Clarity is dynamic. It's okay if your vision evolves as you grow. What's important is, at any given time, you strive to be clear with yourself about why you're choosing what you choose. From a philosophical lens, clarity ties into the idea of an examined life. Socrates famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." It's a bold statement, I know, underscoring that much of life's richness comes from understanding ourselves and the world, rather than just drifting through it. Clarity is the result of examination, curiosity, and honest introspection. It's the flashlight that helps you walk through a dark forest at night. Without it, you might stumble into brambles or walk in circles. With it, you can at least see a few steps ahead and navigate deliberately. To cultivate, make it a habit to check in with yourself regularly. This could be a weekly review where you ask, what went well this week? What didn't? How did I feel about my actions? Did anything feel off or particularly right? Questions like these keep you tuned into whatever you're living in alignment with your true self or veering off. If you notice, for instance, that you felt really proud each time you helped a colleague, that might highlight how important teamwork or mentorship is to you. Or if you felt drained every day when doing a certain task, maybe that aspect is something you don't find meaningful. Another insight. Clarity in personality building also means being clear about the traits you want to develop, like we are doing now, and why. If you know why you want to be disciplined, perhaps to achieve your dream of writing a book, and maybe you want to be empathetic, maybe because you value connection with others deeply, those reasons fuel your motivation. You're not just forcing yourself to change arbitrarily, you have clear purpose behind each trait you cultivate. So, in summary, clarity is about developing a well lit inner world. It's about knowing your core values and having a sense of direction, even if the exact destination changes over time. With clarity, you become much harder to sway. Peer pressure, trends, or sudden obstacles won't throw you completely off course because you can recalibrate and say, this is who I am, this is what matters to me. So, how do I proceed given this new situation? It's a trait that brings a lot of peace of mind because even when external life is chaotic, you have an internal lighthouse of sorts. As we move on, we'll see how clarity works hand in hand with the next trait, empathy. Okay, let's talk about empathy now. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes, to understand and even share what they are feeling. It's about tuning in to someone else's experience and perspective. While clarity is largely about understanding yourself, empathy is about understanding others. It's a cornerstone of emotional intelligence and one of the most human traits we can cultivate. Okay, but why is empathy essential in shaping your personality? Because no person is an island. We live among others, family, friends, colleagues, strangers who cross our path. And much of the richness of life comes from these interactions. Empathy allows those interactions to be meaningful and positive. Without empathy, you might unintentionally hurt people, misunderstand them, or feel constantly at odds with the world. With empathy, you forge strong relationships, resolve conflicts more peacefully, and contribute to a kinder community around you. There's a famous line from literature that beautifully captures empathy. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch tells his daughter, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around it. This vivid metaphor, climbing into someone else's skin, underscores that empathy is an active, imaginative effort. You mentally step out of your own mindset and into someone else's. How do they see the world? What might they be feeling given their situation? Cultivating empathy starts with listening. Often, when we converse, we are half listening and half waiting to talk about our own point of view. Empathy invites us to pause and truly hear the other person. What are they saying? And what might they be going through beneath the surface? If a friend is short tempered, one day, for example, instead of immediately taking offense, an empathetic response would be to wonder, maybe they are stressed or hurt by something. I wonder what's going on with them. That simple shift can turn a potential argument into a moment of support. You might ask if they are okay rather than stepping back. Empathy also means recognizing that everyone has struggles and feelings just like you do. It's easy to judge someone at a glance, say a coworker who missed a deadline or a driver who cut you off in traffic. But empathy reminds us that we rarely know the full story. Perhaps that coworker is dealing with a sick family member or the driver is rushing to an emergency. Empathy doesn't necessarily excuse bad behavior though, but it helps us respond in a more understanding and less angry way. From a practical standpoint, how do you build empathy? One way is to expose yourself to diverse perspectives. Read books or watch films about lives very different from yours. When you read a memoir of someone from another culture or a story about someone overcoming hardships you've never faced, you're essentially practicing empathy. You're seeing the world through different eyes, if only for a while. This can widen your horizons and break down biases. It's harder to hold on to prejudices when you have taken the time to learn about people's individual stories. Another practice is the simple habit of asking questions and being curious about people's feelings. If you're not sure what someone is going through, you can gently ask, for instance, "You seem a bit down today. Do you want to talk about it?" Or maybe, "I noticed you got quiet after the meeting. How are you feeling about what was said?" By inviting others to share, you not only avoid assumptions, you also show them you care. And when they do share, you'll understand them better rather than judging them. Empathy also involves managing our immediate reactions. If someone is upset with us, our reflex might be defensiveness or returning anger. But if we take a deep breath and try to see why they are upset, we might respond more calmly. For example, if a customer yells at you at work, empathy helps you realize they are not really angry at you. Maybe they are frustrated by the situation or having a bad day. That realization can help you stay kind or at least neutral rather than firing back at them. Often, an empathetic response, like calmly saying, "I can see this is really frustrating for you, let's figure it out how to fix it," can diffuse the tension. People tend to soften when they feel understood. It's worth noting that empathy is not the same as agreeing with someone, okay? You can understand someone's perspective deeply and still hold a different opinion or choice. Empathy doesn't mean you give up on your own viewpoint. It just means you acknowledge and respect the existence of theirs. In fact, empathy can create a bridge in situations where you disagree. Instead of demonizing the other side, you might say, "I see why you feel that way," which can open the door to more productive dialogue. Empathy has profound personal benefits too. When you're empathetic, you're able to connect not just intellectually, but emotionally with others. This can lead to deeper friendships and a sense of human bond that is very fulfilling. It also reduces loneliness. When you practice understanding others, you often find that understanding returned. People feel safe to be themselves around you, and in turn, they become more interested in understanding you. From a character standpoint, empathy fosters kindness, patience, and generosity. If you really feel for someone struggling, you're more likely to lend a helping hand. If you empathize with someone's mistake, knowing you too have erred, you're more likely to forgive. Over time, people might describe you as someone who has a big heart or who is easy to talk to. Those are the hallmarks of personality built on empathy. However, empathy should be balanced with self care. Some people are naturally very empathetic but end up absorbing others' emotions too much, to the point of feeling overwhelmed. It's okay to practice a bit of emotional boundaries even as you care for others. Empathy doesn't require you to take on everyone's problems as your own. No, it simply means offering understanding and, when possible, support. That's it. Sometimes empathetic support is just listening and acknowledging someone's pain, which in itself can be very healing, even if you can't solve their problem. In today's world, empathy is more important than ever. We are so connected via technology, yet that doesn't always translate to understanding. It's easy to fire off a mean comment online or dismiss people we don't see face to face. Cultivating real empathy counteracts that impulse. It reminds us that each person we encounter has a depth of experience as real as our own. By building empathy, you are effectively saying, Other people's feelings and experiences matter to me. This not only makes you a better friend, partner, or a colleague, it makes you wiser. You learn so much by seeing through others' eyes, things you might never learn if you stayed logged in your own perspective. Altogether, empathy is a trait that adds warmth and humanity to your personality. It ensures that as you become strong with self discipline, self respect, clarity, etc., you also remain compassionate and connected. Strength without empathy can turn into coldness or arrogance, but strength with empathy becomes a force for good. You'll find that empathy often inspires empathy in return, creating a positive feedback loop of understanding. Next, we'll look at the last of our key traits, that is adaptability. If empathy helps you navigate the people in your world, adaptability helps you navigate the changes in your world. And life, as we know, is full of changes. The final trait we'll explore is adaptability, the capacity to adjust to new conditions and to handle change without falling apart. Change is one of the few constants in life. No matter how much you plan, life will throw curveballs and career shifts and unexpected crises, evolving technology, changes in your own interest or relationships. Adaptability is what allows you to navigate these changes with resilience and openness rather than fear and rigidity. In nature and in life, those who can bend with the wind often survive the storm, whereas those who refuse to bend may break. Think of a tall tree in a storm. The rigid one might snap, while the flexible willow that sways and yields remains standing once the storm passes. For your personality, adaptability means you don't define yourself by a single scenario or identity that, if disrupted, leaves you lost. Instead, you have an open mindset. You can learn new skills when required, adjust your expectations when reality changes, and find new ways to reach your goals if the old ways become blocked. It's the opposite of having a one track mind or being stuck in your ways. Importantly, being adaptable doesn't mean lacking principles or being wishy washy about values. Your core values, like the ones we've discussed, integrity, empathy, etc., can still remain stable. It's the methods or paths that you are willing to change. You remain rooted in your values, but flexible in your approach. Consider a practical example. Imagine you train for years in a specific career and suddenly that industry changes, perhaps due to new technology or economic shifts. A person who lacks adaptability might despair, feeling that all is lost because the exact thing they prepared for isn't available now. On the other hand, an adaptable person will acknowledge the disappointment, but then pivot. They'll identify how their skills can transfer to a new role, or they'll be eager to learn the new tools needed to thrive in the changed landscape. They might even seize it as an opportunity to pursue something they were passionate about but never dared to try. In doing so, they often find that their identity wasn't just someone who does this job, but a capable person who can succeed in various contexts. Adaptability is closely tied to having a growth mindset, a term coined by psychologist Carol Dweck. A growth mindset means you see abilities and situations as changeable. Challenges are chances to grow, not insurmountable walls. If you hit a setback, you ask, what can I learn from this and how can I adapt? Rather than, this is the end of the road. This attitude makes you resilient. You become comfortable with the idea that learning is a lifelong process and that you are always a work in progress, which is exciting because it means you can always improve or reinvent aspects of yourself. On an emotional level, adaptability means you handle stress. Life changes, whether positive or negative, often comes with stress. Moving to a new city, starting a new relationship, losing someone, etc., etc., all require adjustment. If you have adaptability, you kind of coach yourself through it. Okay, this is different. It's okay to feel a bit uneasy. Let's figure out how to make this work. You give yourself permission to try new strategies. You also are more likely to accept reality for what it is rather than getting stuck in it shouldn't be this way. Of course, we all feel that sometimes, but adaptable folks don't linger too long in denial. They move to problem solving mode. How can you cultivate adaptability though? One way is to deliberately mix things up in your life now and then. Step out of your comfort zone regularly. This could be as simple as taking different route to work, trying a cuisine you've never had, or picking up a hobby that's totally new to you. On a larger scale, it might mean traveling, learning a new language, or engaging with people who have different viewpoints. Each time you expose yourself to something unfamiliar, you're teaching your brain new things can be interesting, not scary. You learn that you can handle uncertainty and even enjoy it. Then, when bigger changes occur outside of your control, they are less shocking because you've practiced adaptability in small ways. Another aspect is staying calm and optimistic during change. Adaptable people often have a mindset of there's a way through this, even if I don't see it yet. They manage their anxiety by focusing on what they can control and being willing to experiment with solutions. Okay, let's say your plan for a project at work falls apart. An adaptable approach would be to gather the team and say, all right, plan A didn't work out due to these new circumstances. What can we try as plan B or C? Rather than getting stuck in frustration that plan A failed, it's about forward motion because that failed plan is already gone. You can't do anything about it now. Adaptability also involves letting go of the past when it no longer serves you. This can be hard because we get attached to routines, to the way things were, or even to specific dreams that might not be feasible anymore. But every ending can be a beginning. I repeat, every ending can be a beginning. If you didn't get into your dream grad school, maybe it's an opportunity to gain work experience or explore a different field. If a long term relationship ends, adaptability helps you gradually open up to new people and new routines rather than shutting off completely. It's the trait that helps transform pain into growth. This doesn't mean changes are painless, no, just that adaptability helps you find the silver linings and new paths quicker. Let's bring back the metaphor of being the author of your own story. Adaptability is like having the skill to write plot twists into your own story rather than seeing them as wrecking the narrative. If something unexpected happens, you incorporate it into your character's journey and keep writing forward. Some chapters might not go as originally planned, but they can still lead to a very meaningful story. On a social level, adaptable people are often easier to work with and befriend because they don't insist on everything being done their way. They're open to others' ideas, can handle schedule changes, and generally bring a vibe of flexibility rather than control. This doesn't mean they have no preferences or backbone. It means they are willing to compromise and find solutions that work for everyone when possible. Lastly, adaptability pairs with all the other traits we have discussed. Your discipline and clarity might set you on a certain path, but adaptability will help you adjust that path if needed without losing sight of your values. Your self respect will remind you that even if the externals change, like job, status, etc., you still have worth and can adapt to new roles. Your empathy will help you navigate changes that involve others, like understanding how a change affects your team or family, not just you. And in short, adaptability ensures that the personal growth you achieve with all these other traits doesn't become brittle. Instead, it's supple and dynamic. In a rapidly changing world, from technology to global events, adaptability is more vital than ever. Those who can roll with the punches, learn continuously, and stay curious will not only survive, but often thrive. They discover new parts of themselves in the process. By embracing change with grace, you show a level of maturity and confidence that enhances your personality greatly. Adaptability says to the world, I am ready to adjust and keep growing. It's a reassurance to yourself as well. You won't break if things don't go exactly as planned. Instead, you'll blend, you'll sway, and you'll come back stronger. Perhaps even with a new perspective or skill you didn't have before. It's the trait that keeps you young at heart and mentally agile, no matter your age or circumstances. We've journeyed through a wide landscape of ideas, from taking charge of your identity to cultivating discipline, self respect, clarity, empathy, and adaptability. It's a lot to take in, I know, but all these pieces form a bigger picture. They come together to depict a portrait of a person who is consciously crafted rather than passively formed. In other words, a person who has built their personality on their own terms instead of letting the world do it for them. If there's one theme that echoes through all these topics, it's intentionality. A strong, grounded personality doesn't happen by accident. It's built choice by choice, habit by habit, day by day. Every time you choose to stick to a value, like honesty over convenience or kindness over indifference, you're shaping your character. Every time you reflect on who you are and who you want to be, you are drawing the roadmap for your personal growth. When you are young, this can be as simple as deciding to stand up for a friend, thus building courage and loyalty, or saying no to a peer pressure that feels wrong, building integrity and self respect. As you grow older, it might be pursuing a career that aligns with your passion instead of one that just impresses others, or actively working on your patience and understanding as you deal with people or challenges. Remember that this is a lifelong journey. Personality isn't fixed at age 5 or 15 or even 50. We are continually evolving. You might be inspired today to work on these 5 traits, and years from now, you may find new traits to refine or new facets of these same traits revealing themselves. That's wonderful. It means you're alive and growing. The goal isn't to reach some final, perfect personality, there's no such thing, but to keep evolving into a better version of yourself, one that feels true and fulfilling to you. You may also realize that these traits reinforce each other. Discipline and self respect help you stick to your values even when it's hard. Empathy and adaptability help you navigate change in a way that is considerate of others and yourself. A person with all these traits will likely come across as wise and balanced, not because they never make mistakes, but because they learn from those mistakes, treat themselves and others well, thanks to self respect and empathy, and can steadily work toward what matters, thanks to discipline. Another key insight is that building your personality is not opposed to achievement. It's actually the foundation for meaningful achievements. When you prioritize who you are, the things you do are more likely to align with your true goals and create a lasting sense of accomplishment. If you think of life as building a house, your character is the foundation. Achievements are like the furniture and decor. They can make it look nice, but without a solid foundation, the house won't stand for long. By focusing on your foundation, you ensure that whatever you build on top, career, relationship, skills, has strength. It's also important to be patient and compassionate with yourself in this process. You will have days when you slip. Maybe you lose your temper and forget empathy, or slack off and drop the ball on discipline, or feel lost and unclear. Notice those moments without harsh judgment and use them as guideposts. Often, our mistakes are our best teachers. They show us where we still have work to do. Every time you catch yourself falling into an old pattern and gently guide yourself back, you are exercising the very traits we discussed. Over time, it gets easier and more natural. Embrace the fact that you are human. Building personality doesn't mean pretending to be a saint or a superhero. In fact, a well developed personality includes acknowledging your vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and then working with them or around them. Maybe you're not naturally very organized, discipline might be hard, but you learn tricks to cope and you emphasize your strengths like creativity. Or perhaps empathy doesn't come easily at first, so you consciously practice it in small doses and forgive yourself when you don't get it perfectly. This honest approach makes your growth authentic. As you become more intentional in shaping yourself, something really magical happens. You inspire others just by living as you, strongly and kindly. You set an example. Friends might notice the positive changes and feel motivated to work on themselves too. Or you might handle a tough situation with such calm, thanks to clarity and adaptability, that others ask you how you managed it. You'll find that who you are can influence people far more deeply than any advice you might give them. It's like you're quietly lightening the path, showing that it's possible to live with purpose and heart. Finally, let's revisit the core message: build your personality before the world builds it for you. This means being proactive about your inner life. It's about asserting, this is my life, my mind, my heart, and I will take responsibility for shaping them. When you do that, you essentially become the author of your own story. The world will still throw in plot twists, no doubt about that. But you are not a powerless character now. You can rewrite and respond to those twists in line with your character arc. Imagine years from now looking back on your life. The specifics of jobs and awards may blur, but you will clearly remember the kind of person you became. That's your legacy to yourself and to those around you. By focusing on building a strong personality, you invest in something profoundly meaningful. Achievements will decorate your journey, but your character will define it. So, start today, right where you are. You don't need to overhaul everything at once. Pick one trait, one small habit, one little act of intentional personality building, and begin. Maybe it's waking up tomorrow and spending 5 minutes in quiet clarity about the day. Maybe it's choosing to apologize and make amends, showing self respect and empathy. There, your pride normally wouldn't. Maybe it's saying no to something that isn't right for you, asserting your values, or saying yes to an opportunity that scares you but could help you grow, embracing adaptability. Each such act is like laying a brick. Over time, brick by brick, you will have constructed something truly worthwhile yourself, the person you most intimately live with, built strong and true. And that structure, your personality, will be your shelter through all weather, your beacon in dark times, and your platform to shine in good times. Thank you for coming along on this reflective journey. Stay intentional, stay true to yourself, and remember the world can influence you, but only you get to ultimately decide who you are. Build that person with care and courage, and you live a life that feels authentically yours. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.